Greg a chance to respond. I know we talked earlier about that one-year anomaly in numbers, and if you wanted to talk about that some more, but just respond to some of the comments that Tanya made.
Well, can everybody hear now? Just some of the situations that we face in Escambia County, that what Lisa's referring to is, yes, there is no doubt that violent crime and the overall crime rate has decreased over the past number of years. That's both in the adult system as well as juvenile system. Our juvenile numbers are down substantially over what they were a few years ago. Our numbers in adult court are down over what they were a few years ago. Now, nobody can give an absolute definition as to why that's happened. There's a lot of reasons. Some people will say one thing, other people will say something else. But what we have seen in Escambia County is an uptick in certain types of crime that you do not necessarily see over a long period of time. If you went back farther than 5 years, you would see that during that period of time, the number of cases that we transferred to adult court was actually higher and substantially higher than they are now. They decreased each year over a number of years and have seen an uptick in the last couple of years. So it actually has been decreasing over time and has recently gone up. And there's several explanations for that. One is an uptick of certain types of crime in this area. One is an increase in what we would call neighborhood street gang type situations. These are not necessarily what you envision on TV or movies as gangs, but they are neighborhood groups that are engaged in violent criminal activity in the neighborhoods that have increased over the past few years and involve primarily or a large number of juveniles. And we have taken a tough stand on these type of cases. Also, there's been a huge uptick in the number of burglaries, both vehicle type burglaries as well as home burglaries. And if anybody's read the newspaper over the last number of months, you would see that there's been hundreds, if not more than that, numbers of burglaries, both vehicles or structures or dwellings that occurred during that period of time. Again, a very high percentage of those cases have involved juveniles. We do take a very tough stand on that because of the nature of the crime. We have cases where juveniles who have been in the juvenile justice system, who are in juvenile supervision, wearing ankle bracelets, are still out committing burglaries. And yes, we will treat those individuals as adults. We do feel it's the appropriate remedy. A couple other points on the transfer situation. Historically, the decision as to the filing of criminal charges is a decision made by the prosecutor. It is historically not made by the courts. And that's why I believe we have the system at this point. It has changed over time. We make a decision. It is not reviewed by a court at that time, but ultimately it is decided at the close of the case by the trial judge. And I know there was reference made to, plea negotiations. We make a recommendation. We file charges on what we feel are the appropriate charges. We do not have a policy in our office, and actually we have the exact opposite policy. We do not overcharge. We charge what we believe is the appropriate charge under the facts of that case. We then seek an appropriate disposition for that charge. Majority of these cases are not punishable by life. There is a number of them that will be. But a defendant can always plead straight up to the court, and the court makes that decision. We can argue for what we feel is appropriate, but there is no requirement that they enter a plea to what we've recommended. In some situations, if they are facing such serious charges, where they are looking at an extended period of time in incarceration, yes, that may be a little different. There may be some basis for a defendant to enter a plea to something they might not want to because they're facing a much heavier sentence. But the only time we get into that case, the only cases under Florida law that are punishable by law are very serious felony offenses involving predominantly violence or things of that nature. So we're not talking about people who have committed one small offense. Another thing that was mentioned was indictment. Under Florida law, the only crime in adult court that prosecutors have to seek an indictment for is first-degree murder. In the juvenile justice system, there are certain cases that we can seek where we cannot directly transfer our own. We can ask that it be transferred by a grand jury, which means it's presented to a grand jury, and a grand jury makes a decision at that point whether it should go to adult court. That, in Escambia County, is extremely rare. It happens. It's happened more than once, but I can't remember the last time we did it. I don't think we've done it in the last year or two. I don't think we've done it at all in at least the last 2 years. So that is something that is there, but we seldom use that in our system at all.
We have a few questions here, people who would like to hear from Spencer.